All right, well, we'll get to our first look at contenders in just a few minutes, starting with Group A, as Europe's G2 Esports and North America's CLG set up on stage for our first clash of the tournament. Then the Rocks Tigers will go up against Albus Nox Luna. Group C is up next with H2K versus AHQ and CB Lulz INTZ versus Edward Gaming. Then it's Group D as Korea's Samsung Galaxy takes to the stage against Europe's Splice. And our final match of the day pits TSM against the LPL's Royal Never Give Up. What a doozy to end the day. Now, throughout Worlds, we have the Riot Games 2 stream up and running to bring you a specialized look at the action unfolding on Summoner's Rift. We'll have special guests and a team of analysts for each game during group stages, offering a rotating focus of specific lanes, matchups, or exciting players. Now, during our first match of the day, Sipa, Zyrene, and their guest Matt will tunnel in on the support matchup between Mythy and Aframu. For more details, click over to lolesports.com or check in on the Riot Games 2 stream throughout the tournament. Before we go, though, gentlemen, it's time for me to put you on the spot one last time. Our first game of the day, G2, CLG, EU, NA. Down the line, Crepo, who you taking?
I'm going to go for G2 Esports here. I know CLG come into every tournament with a lot of cheese. They'll whip out the Parmesan, the Gouda. They even have crowd support. But G2, they're done with their vacation. They practice super hard, and they're going to smash CLG.
All righty. How about here, Papa?
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to take G2 as well. I know that the crowd aren't going to like it.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
You guys are making enemies here. Day one, game one, we're making enemies.
Wait, guys, Cooley's no longer here.
But what I will say, though, is that remember back to MSI, CLG had the Aurelion Soul. They had something prepared. Yeah. I think the fact that CLG plays in game one of the day when the meta's not settled, this is their best chance to take down G2. So it's a close one. Based on tape, you go for G2, but can't be too surprised if CLG.
Oh, I see Crumbs is antsy. He's ready to go. What do you got for me?
You know, my mind's telling me that G2 will take it. My heart wants CLG so bad, but there's just so much against
Follow your heart,
CLG
Crumbs.
right now.
Follow your heart.
I have to take G2. I have to take. No. But this is their best shot. This is their best shot for CLG. I think they can do it. I want it to happen.
You're done. You're done, Zone. Already.
The evidence is too much, man. It's been the whole split.
I got to go with Papa Smithy on the best of 1 point for CLG. I think that's a really, really big move for this squad. And it looks like the crowd is behind me on that one. But, ladies and gentlemen, 3-0 here on the desk in favor of G2. It's time now to hit the rift here in San Francisco. So without further ado, let's send it to the casters to fire up Worlds 2016.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Caster Desk. My name is David Freak. Cheerlead, my co-caster, is clearly not impressed with the analysts.
Oh, I was very impressed.
Okay,
very impressed.
I
definitely.
I am here with Sam, Kobe, Hartman, Kensler, and Martin DeFicio Lunga of the North American and European LCSs, respectively, and we are getting ready for our first transatlantic battle of the 2016 group stage. European champions G2 Esports taking on North America's Counter Logic Gaming.
Yeah, and this is such an important game for G2, like the redemption story after MSI, where they obviously didn't show up at all. They win the European Summer Split, honestly pretty dominating. They didn't lose a single series, and now they have this Pool 2 seed, sadly for them, despite winning Europe, and they have to take on CLG in game one, a game where G2 will be favorites, but it's not so easy.
Well, one of the reasons that they are pretty big favorites is that addition that they made between MSI and now, which is the bottom lane. Famed Sven and Mythy, who changed his name from Niels. They were top 4 players at last Worlds, and adding those guys to the #1 team in Europe is why a lot of people are behind G2 right now.
Yeah, and honestly, I only have praise for these two guys. I think Sven is one of the absolute best AD carries we have in the West and in the world. And then, of course, Mythy as a support as well. The captain down the bottom and the main shot caller of the team. And when you play with Mythy, it's like you have a coach in-game. And he's also mechanically very, very gifted. So I only have good things to say about these two guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a really important showdown here because, of course, tournament favorite Rocks Tigers are in this group. So people are expecting this match to be a battle for second place here. G2 Esports the favorite, but CLG hoping to make the upset to be the arguably #2 team in the group if they can do it.
Yep, CLG, no strangers to being the underdogs and always looking for that upset. This team also, they're looking for a bit of redemption as coming off of the success of MSI, they had a fairly disappointing summer split, but they were able to grind it out and make their way here to Worlds once again. They are the second seed, but they finished 4th in the summer split.
Yeah, which is why it's kind of crazy with CLG after losing to Immortals, obviously, who didn't make it to Worlds. They still come in as second seed due to championship points. Yeah. And they really want to show everyone that they are actually much better than people expect them to be.
I mean, that's the thing is CLG won in spring. They made the finals of the midseason invitational. Like, CLG does have the rep to say they can play up in big matches.
And they touched on this a little bit on the analyst test with the Aurelion Soul pick, but CLG, for a long time, not just the Aurelion Soul pick as a one-off there for MSI, right? It did surprise people, and nobody else played it the entire tournament. But CLG have done this whenever there's a big meta change. Their coach Zix and Aframu, who is also a great in-game leader, as you talked about Mithy being, have done so much. They're very objective focused, so whenever there's changes in the meta, CLG always tries to figure out the quickest way to get extra objectives in the early and mid-game to try and snowball those gold leads.
Yeah, CLG, a very smart team. Their support Aframu, a big shot caller, and he actually talks to us about what he's expecting as fireworks from G2's dynamic playmaking support.
Playing against Mithy, I would say he probably pushes me to the limit, similar to Mata, as in he's always looking to make a play no matter what, and every time he's walking around the map, he's looking to do something else other than come back to lane. So it's either going to screw over my team or something like that. And even though Mithy is my close friend, I hate playing against that guy because he does that so much. So it's important for me to stay on top of it. But after the game is over and done, you know, we're cool friends.
Yeah, it's one of the nice things about these sort of top teams and top players going against each other is they're friends. They're in a similar boat. How many people have the same experience as Aframu, right? Running around the world, playing in top tournaments. Mithy's one of those guys, but today, he's just got to fight him. He's got to win. He's got to win that lane.
Yeah, and a lot of people actually don't know this about Mithy, but he's attended every single World Championship when he actually played in the LCS. He obviously skipped Season 4, and he had Season 3 with Lemon Dogs. He qualified. They didn't make it out of groups, and then he had Origin last year. Now with G2, he's here again. He's never missed a final in Europe either whenever he's attended, you know, the EU LCS. So this guy has so much success, and wherever he goes, the team just seems to play much better macro around him and get more consistent. And that's actually what G2 has managed to do here in the summer split. I just need to see it in a best of one against a team like CLG who can prepare some very, very good strategies.
And that's one of the reasons why this is, you know, support matchup is my most highlighted matchup of this series.
So let's take a look at the starting lineups for both these rosters here. With first pick on the blue side is G2 Esports from the European LCS. Expect in the top lane, Trick in the jungle, Perks in mid, Sven and Mithy that bottom lane of AD carrying support with their coach Youngbuck.
And their opponent is North America's Counter Logic Gaming. Up top is Darshan in the jungle, Smithy, mid, Huhi, AD carry, Stixay, support Aframu, and Coach Zix on stage with them.
Now that you guys have seen the lineup, you know it's about time to get ourselves into our very first game of the 2016 League of Legends World Championship. I have been counting down the minutes until this time would occur. I have no idea truly what the teams will want to play. It's been about a month since we've really seen these teams play competitive professional matches, and now it's their time to show us first, before anyone else, what they think is good.
Group stages is definitely my most exciting time of the year. I love it when we finally get to see not only how the different regions stack up, but what everybody's been working on in boot camp.
Did you enjoy week 2 last year's group stage?
Week 1 of group stage.
Yeah, week 1 was great, definitely so. Getting into game, guys, G2 versus CLG. And we talked about Aurelion Soul. I think when you play against Huhi, especially here early on in the group stage, you have to remove that one pick. And I actually want to see Bard being removed as well against Aframu. He's such a big playmaker on that champion.
Yeah, as far as G2's band against CLG, no surprises really, except for maybe a little twist with the Karma. I have to say though, you know, the flexibility there also, taking that off the board is a big thing. Jungler pool is actually getting focused a lot here, and I think Elise is very high priority at the moment.
Yeah, that's always typically when you're on the red side, which is the right-hand side of the screen. I realize CLG's logo is blue, but that's the side of the map they're actually on, is you set up these pinches. What's important to first pick, what's important to pick on the second side.
So a little bit of a throwaway ban from CLG. Not that Soraka is not a good support in the current meta, but more because Elise is now available, and G2 has to decide between Elise and picks like Syndra or Jay, some of these other champions we see here in this current meta. Elise is the first pick though, the best available jungler.
Right, we got number 1 now. CLG, what are they going to answer with here? I feel like especially as the meta, the bootcamp meta here for Worlds has been changing up top lane quite a lot. And top lane really heavily relies on counter picks nowadays. I almost feel even more safe first picking from mid lane and blind picking something like Syndra or Cassiopeia rather than blind picking in top lane.
Yeah, definitely agree on the Syndra blind pick specifically. Cassiopeia can actually get countered, funny enough, also by Syndra. But Syndra is one of these picks that we're going to see a lot. A lot of mid laners, they like her because she's good at all stages of the game, except for maybe 6 items. But how often do we even go 6 items in a little bit of a snowballing meta where it's a lot about standard laning?
Plus, specifically for Huhi, Syndra has been one of his most impactful champions when Aurelion Sol is banned, but it's not going to be the case.
Bullies.
Talk about standard laning, of course. You're almost guaranteed a 2-on-2. You can choose to swap, but you pay a pretty heavy gold tax by doing so. And so Counter Logic Gaming grab 2 lane-dominant bottom laners here in the Caitlyn and Nami.
But this means now for G2 that there are still a pick like Jace available. And when you have Jace with Elise, that's a very good combo. Because you have then an AP jungler with an AD top laner. If Jace does go top, which we expect he will. And that early game setup is insane. So if Darshan doesn't get a safe pick up in the top lane, he can get camped early on.
It definitely is scary because Elise brings so much pressure to the early game, and Jace can play up. If Jace has control of the wave, you know, they kills the ranged minions very quickly, then pushes up, and Elise is there. You can even dive people really early on. It definitely is a threatening opening round here from G2, and they are going to lock in that Syndra we were just talking about as well.
Yeah, CLG put a lot of focus on locking in that bottom lane so early. They wanted the 2 preferred picks for them. And honestly, I think G2 is pretty happy with that. They avoid the Bard from Aphromo, which is a big playmaker in a best of 1, and they get power picks.
What they need now for CLG to answer this is some hard engage, because G2 have a lot of poke, good siege right now. You know, they can have long range stuns and poke under turrets as well as Elise for dive. However, CLG could try and go for some hard engage, try and counter this.
It has gotten harder though to get hard engaged because Gragas obviously is out of the meta.
Very true.
Top lane meta is a lot of these squishy picks like Kennen, like Na and Rumble and Jace. Like they don't actually offer like that pure hard engage. Kennen could be a choice for just that flashing with after he TPs, but he actually loses lane to Jace.
Definitely, and we also need to touch on Jace. With a couple of the changes and why he's been getting so popular, no longer has to wait around for tier to stack up. You know, a lot of mana buffs for him, and the ramp-up time just isn't there that used to be there, so much more fearsome early.
And CLG, very, very standard picks, honestly, from what we expect of this meta. Strong 2v2 bot lane with Nami as the lane bully support. Vladimir is one of the picks against Syndra. It's not because Vladimir wins the lane, but he can farm against her as long as she doesn't get a blue buff early.
Exactly. It looks to me like CLG are going with their MSI style, where they want to team fight around Stixxay. They did this a lot at MSI, where they put Darshan on Poppy, didn't count on him to win lane, you know, or pressure much early, but he made big plays when it came to team fighting, and it looks like CLG may be focusing on trying to team fight around Stixxay.
Definitely so, and there are still quite some jungle picks available as well as a last rotation if you want like a Kindred to maybe protect the Caitlyn even more with an ulti. Graves also is available. We know it's been played a lot in solo queue by a lot of these junglers.
Yeah, so it's going to be up to G2 to lock in their final champion. We have the whole lineup here for G2. A lot of long-range champions. Cocoon, you've got Braum to keep the shield to make sure the poke champions are good, but Jason and Jhin especially, very long-range champions. They want to get the damage from pretty much off the map, and CLG don't really have a lot of engage tools to break those sieges up.
Yeah, really nicely curving out their strength there, G2. When the first 3 champions showed, we talked about the poke, they rounded out with more with Jhin and then Braum. So good with these comps. Able to push up and save minion waves as well when they go for the siege. Is going to be on CLG to also dodge a lot of skill shots here.
Yeah, it really is only Poppy who can start a fight on CLG's side, tiled away from Nami. That's not a hard engage tool because it's so slow when it comes in. And Braum also, as Freak is pointing here on the screen to help me, can also just block it straight away. So it is really, really difficult for CLG to start a fight easily. They do want something that can dive the backline though.
Okay, Olaf picked up as a champion, try to assault the Syndra, assault the Jace, assault the Jhin, and he's unstoppable during that ultimate, so you might see him get in there.
Olaf, no surprise here. It's been very popular in North America. Plus, we remember Reignover has been boot camping with CLG in Korea. He was one of the first ones to bring that Olaf popularity over to North America. This is a very, very strong champion for the early game. A lot of the North American junglers love the fast clear into early ganks, spamming your ghost cooldown, just constantly clearing out camps and getting off a lot of ganks. The early game is really where he shines, so
yeah.
It falls off later.
And he needs to really, really do something in the early game because G2 has very strong solo lanes here in Syndra and Jace against the Poppy and Vladimir, and Elise, who can also gank so effectively early on. So G2 will definitely look to snowball the top side of the map, and then bottom lane, well, they have to survive. They might get one gank just to relieve some pressure. Otherwise, they're on their own, and they just need to make sure they don't fall too far behind.
It's a good thing also for CLG that Olaf has 2 dive partners in the Vladimir and Poppy, because if you're running Olaf into that much firepower, oftentimes when you're running up, even with Ghost on, you can get shot down before you
attack him, kill him off. I mean, if he turns unstoppable, he actually loses a lot of those defensive stats and becomes easier to kill off. So guys, we are getting ready for our first game of the 2016 World Championship. So tell us who's gonna take the first game of the tournament. Tweet up hashtag G2 win or hashtag CLG win if your votes are behind Europe or North America respectively as the teams load up onto the Rift. Of course, we have a North American crowd here, and you can hear who they're voting for.
Oh, sorry, that's what I heard.
That is unlike here in
is.
San Francisco, but we are now loading onto the Rift for Game 1 of the 2016 League of Legends World Championship.
Both teams with jerseys representing their nation's colors as well. G2 with the recent European Union jerseys, and America, once again, CLG bringing back those from MSI. Let's take a look here at the opening, though. Everybody fanning out for defensive vision.
Well, CLG is looking to at least pluck a ward in on the red buff, it looks like, from Aframo here, just to see if they can spot an early start. One thing you guys need to know, when you have a top laner like Jace, you very often want to gank for him early. So if you can start on bottom side as an Elise and just path all the way up to top side, you can set up some very, very effective ganks. CLG didn't get any wards down, however.
Yeah, Elise definitely potent level 3 ganks. Olaf, however, can pull off one of the quickest level 3 ganks, especially red side Olaf has a extremely fast gank up to the top side. Blue, Wolves, red can get there and surprise a lot of people, especially if on the Jace, you know, you're trying to bully early, trying to move up in the lane. If Expect plays forward, might be able to get there first, but we'll see if the race does pay off, because it looks like Elise starting topside, you know, has that possibility of just doing 3 topside camps going up there with only blue.
Definitely an option. Otherwise, again, you just do, you know, your Grump, your Wolves, you do your red buff, and then you can path topside. But zoom out, bigger picture. 2 teams, Freak, taking on each other. You said it before here in the intro. These 2 teams, they're technically fighting for what we expect to be the 2nd place because they have Rock's Tigers. So it's such an important match now.
It really is. Of course, they will face each other again next week. In the group stage, you play each other team in your group twice. This will be the first match, and it will definitely set the tone for what these 2 teams are doing. As we look kind of at the matchups overall, of course, you expect this matchup to go well for Counter Logic Gaming. The Thunderlords, the Nami adding some extra damage as he pokes down, gets Mithy to half and everything like that. Otherwise, though, both junglers have been kind of unspotted throughout their various starts.
Yeah, one thing coming into this match with researching the stats over the regular season for both these teams, Trick actually had one of the lowest jungle proximities and very low counter jungling numbers as well, whereas there was a very recent rise for Smithy as far as that presence is concerned. And Trick has done the full clear of the blue side. He's not going to go for one of the early ganks, though. Just continuing to clear out the red quadrant of the jungle for him.
Yeah, it does mean Expect is playing a little bit safe up in the top lane, not going all in to harass the Poppy in case enemy Olaf shows up, because when you have strong solo laners, the worst that can happen is the enemy jungler pulls off an early gank.
And especially Expect is not really someone that we would I'm trying to think of a different word besides expect, but expect to be, playing up in the lane and playing aggressively, trying to dominate in a 1-versus-1 situation.
You'd anticipate that kind of based on how the matchup is going. I got you. Got your back. Next time around, I'm going to say anticipate for the man. But yeah, this is so far a fairly sort of neutral game so far. Of course, we are very early on into it. You expect the lanes that are winning are actually doing that right now. CLG, yep, up pretty sizably. They're pushing G2 under their turrets. And the thing is, based on the jungle pass we've had, again, I want to point out the fact that Smithy, I think, kind of hid his jungle start, right? You expect he either gets leashed by his top laner, by the Poppy, or leashed by the Caitlyn and the Nami, but Caitlyn and Nami showed up early to lane, which makes you assume, oh, okay, Darshan leashed from the top side. You expect Olaf to work down towards the bottom side of the map. That didn't happen. Smithy actually started on his own blue buff with no leash. He will end up top side as Trick is on the bottom. There'll be mismatch, and you might see some very significant 2v1s or 3v2s because of this.
I'm glad we talk about Smithy, because I feel like coming into this World Championship, he's one of the most exciting players to look at on this CLG lineup, just because he's always been. It's always the joke about being underrated and so on. People don't really expect too much from him.
Dandy Light.
I feel like Dandy Light. I feel like this whole, he's underrated is kind of gone now. I think a lot of people actually respect him a lot as a jungler. He's shown up multiple times at the big international events, and he's the kind of guy you're looking at in a standard lane meta to really have a massive impact in the early game, because we know CLG doesn't have the strongest solo laners, on paper at least. If Xmithy is able to help them early on, even out-jungle the enemy jungler, well then suddenly CLG might actually have a strong early game, and we know they have good late game shot calling, which they can then very easily transition towards.
Right, and since we are on jungles and we have some more time, let's just delve a little bit deeper into why Olaf is so good in the early game.
You love that Olaf?
I do. One of the reasons I love him so much is because I'm a very stingy jungler, and I like to use scaling yellow runes at all times if I can pull it off, rather than the flat armor, which keeps you more healthy. Olaf actually does not care about getting low early in the jungle because of his passive, getting more attack speed. Exactly. Increases his clear time. Plus, he never has to worry about actually dying. The lifesteal that he can get from W. The other thing is that starting blue, having blue buff is incredibly important for Olaf. It really increases your clear speed when you can continually spam out your undertow, the axes for him. And that's part of the reason why he's actually one of, if not the fastest clearing early game junglers.
So to take you guys out of the game real quick, because of course we do have the game paused. It was Stixay and then Afro who had some audio issues. They resumed the game to test, make sure audio was working. Sadly, it seems to not be the case right now, so we are still triaging for Afro. We expect it to be a fairly short pause. Hopefully that is the case here early on in this game with, of course, again, not a whole lot of action that has happened so far.
No, I mean, we're only 2 minutes and 49 seconds into it, so we're like, come on, fight, what's going on here?
Of course.
But obviously, yeah, junglers can look to gank very soon. Laners get the wards down. Expect doesn't have a ward topside, same for the Sean, but again, nothing has really happened. So it's just going to be interesting to see how the early game pans out, because from when we talk to players, they keep talking about how this meta, once you start falling behind, it is really difficult to get back into the game, because it's very easy to get, like, if you towers down, a big goal advantage, then you get deep vision on a certain area, and then you just take over, like, that complete side of the map, and you can start, like, stacking up dragons, get an early Baron, so on, so on. So it's super, super important with the early game, and that's why we talk so much about the junglers, because they, of course, impact the early game so much, and if one guy gets ahead of the other one, he can pull his team with him.
100% agree. There's a big factor contributing to that recent trend is that we've just added more objectives into the game, right?
Sure.
There are just more important objectives now, especially with first gold on turret. Basically just coming out of nowhere, right? That's a whole bunch of extra gold that was not available before, and that also puts more importance on lane dominance, right? The laning phase for all the different lanes really does play into where that jungler is going to path, because a jungler dominating game doesn't have to look like a jungler going and getting ganks off and then leaving. It can turn into jungler going bottom lane in a winning lane and pushing down a turret.
Exactly, and then you take turret, you take an Infernal Drake or Cloud Drake, depending on which region you're from, then you're super happy, of course. But with CLG in this situation and their picks, we also get to see some of the newer ones people maybe didn't expect, like Nami coming back in. But funny enough, we're back to MSI, where it was the range supports like Nami who was played, because she's so good in the laning phase specifically, especially in the early levels. When you play Nami, though, you have to be careful. You're very squishy. Later on, if you miss that bubble, Braum jumps you, enemy jungler jumps you, and you die very, very quickly.
Definitely true. Bottom lane for CLG, the one pushing up, they have to be a little bit more careful. Top lane is starting to actually push away from Expect as well.
And here we go. We are back into the game, and this time around, it hasn't been paused again, so we might just be back into the action here as Counter Logic Gaming once again is taking on G2 Esports North America versus Europe. Xmithy actually pathing back down to the bottom of his jungle.
A long route down.
It is a very curious path. Definitely, you talked about throwing off the enemy's timing streak, though. They would have no idea he's on that side.
I assume he's attempting to find Trick and just gets a Scuttle Crab for his efforts.
Yeah, early Scuttle Crab control is extremely important as far as the vision control that we've talked about snowballing.
Yeah, and I definitely like it when you have a pushing bot lane. Just get a little bit extra vision in the river. They can just ward the enemy try-push, and then you kind of have full information of where the enemy jungler can come from. Elise obviously can't really path any other ways. But top lane now, as we talked about, Expect finally got to push in. Trick is showing up, and this combo can actually dive very effectively. It is very early in the game, but Dashawn is down to 50%.
Yep, this is definitely scary for him. He does have his summoners available, so Flash is ready, but I don't know if that's going to save. Oh, no!
He went to go ward. Trick spots him down to 100 HP, and Dashawn gets sniped! Expect draws first blood at the World Championship.
And that was almost too easy for G2. We were expecting the big dive to happen. Maybe one member would drop too low and a potential counter gank, but nope. Dashawn walked into ward too late to see if the enemy jungler showed up, and Trick was already there.
We talked about it in Champion Select, the dive potential of a pushing
ganking top lane.
Ace and Elise. And man, G2 jump out to a big lead there. That is going to take some wind out of the sails for North America.
I see that again here. So Dashawn does have his ward available, but he doesn't have anything put down, and he wants to go in a ward now. Trick is here maybe a few seconds earlier than he expected.
Yeah, I mean, anytime, that's what we talked about, you know, the importance of lane dominance. And when lanes are pushing in, you have to actually make a move a couple seconds earlier. Here we go, though. This is a reactive move from Smithy. And because it's reactive, walking over vision probably won't get much out of it.
Yeah, it looks like Expectus playing far enough back. He's already taken his first recall and TP'd back into the lane. Right, and now you have Trick joining in as well. Smithy says, nope, we can't do that. Recalls in a brush. G2 don't know that he's not still waiting, but it's another 2v1 against Darshan.
Yeah,
He does have flash.
This is the situation where you tell your top laners to play stupid and just go all in, just like walk into minions, play aggressive. In case enemy jungler was still there, he would have gone for the gank, and then he could have counter ganked it. Now, they might just get a bit of poke on Dashawn. He still has flash.
Yeah, I love that dangerous game, right? Because you have to be careful with how stupid, quote unquote, you play.
Run forward.
You lose half of your life to it. Definitely can bite you in the backside, but both junglers end up recalling after that non-action.
Look at the other lanes in this situation here. We have mid lane. We talked about Vladimir can farm even versus the Syndra, unless Syndra gets her lost chapter and then also a blue buff. She can just perma push, perma harass. She has one of them now. She needs the blue buff when it spawns, but Trick was a greedy jungler, took it for himself instead of giving him to his mid lane. Like
you mean a smart jungler?
A smart jungler, of course.
One other thing that's pretty curious is the early Moby boots for Trick. It is a risky buy. It's definitely a snowballing buy. We've seen people be punished for it, as you don't have those combat stats, but definitely allows him to put a lot more pressure on the map and try and snowball.
Has a chance to be rewarded for it. Spotting Smithy, dancing back and forth. Axe tags him, turns off the bonus move speed, and they go back to their respective sides of the map. Both junglers being spotted now. We just have a chill game for now.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the boots on the other side for Smithy, that is the go-to boots for Olaf. We talked about the low cooldown of the Ghost Summoner spell for pulling off ganks. Want to try and abuse that as much as possible. Plus, flat cooldown reduction helps out with undertow damage.
Forcing the flash out of Expect. Nice done by Darshan, but here comes a counter gank. Trick walking through a ward, doing it, and Darshan knows he's safe.
And that was definitely not good enough here from Expect. He was out of mana. You can see his build. He's not going for tier. He's going for a build we see more and more from Jace, where you just rush Ghostblade, and you have an insane power swipe very early. So he's not stacking any mana regen just now. Jumping in for Stixxay.
Good damage gets the tag onto Afro. One more hit will stun him, but they're going to land the root. One more auto. Can't quite get in range. Vent won't get it. CLG actually does win that trade, as Afro has plenty of mana to heal back up.
Yeah, now we actually have an opening for CLG in the top lane because there is no flash from Expect. He walked in to hit that tower, as we said earlier, without mana and didn't really accomplish anything. It was just a greedy play, and now we can see this Olaf go to top lane and actually try and gank the Jace. He's very easy to gank as an Olaf with his ulti.
Yeah, you can't knock him back, pop up the ulti. The best that Jace can hope for is to try and jump to an enemy minion that's closer to his turret or something. But aside from that, will drop pretty quickly.
Counterlogic Gaming going to go ahead and recall their dual lane. Nicely played by Mithy. He will build a freeze for a while, actually. You had Sven recall quite a bit earlier, just kind of by himself. Got his own bit of armor penetration. CLG backs up for a BF sword on their AD carry, plus their Sightstone. It does mean Mithy will have to recall late, and there will be some 2v1 time. Very briefly for CLG in the dual lane.
Luckily for G2, though, the wave is actually pushed so far towards the G2 tower that you're not really at risk of getting zoned for minions or anything. You can just sit and farm.
And as those teleports for top laners do come back up, this first Ocean Drake definitely becomes a real possibility, especially if the bottom lane does gain control and continues pushing like that. So we'll see if CLG put down some wards in preparation for that.
This is smart by CLG, though. They're standing in the spots that G2 would go to ward, but they haven't been seen yet.
Ooh, they might find Mithy when he passed down to the bottom lane, or potentially just dive onto the Jhin. Jhin is all alone here.
Here comes a slow from Afro. He pulls the aggro. Nothing for him to do. He can't do anything. Saves the summoners.
But
a
G2's
great
coming.
clean kill by G2. Here comes Trick. Here comes Smithy. Here comes Perks. Huhi on the backside. The flash chase in. Huhi wants in. Here's the tidal wave as well. The flash does get him out of range. Huhi's still staying alive. Here's the TP and Darshan gets him. Smithy the second kill for Counter Logic Gaming.
Darshan right over the wall. They do use that TP we're talking about just as it comes off cooldown. That means, though,
Not over yet, guys.
use his, and
This is a 4 versus 2. Here's the teleport for Expect. They're still putting the damage of Darshan getting low. He might die to the turret. Run more hit, but they've still picked up Trick. This might come back in after a little bit overextended. One more hit, I'll do it. Mithy get the kill. He's trying to save it for Expect, but Summoner Heal saves his life. Afro gets out. CLG still stays up a kill with the play.
Afro just managed to stay alive in the end, but good setup from CLG with the trap first and then an early teleport from Darshan here, catching G2 off guard. Expect joined very, very late.
yeah, a bit of adrenaline joining there as well, as we saw a couple of little bit of a misplay. Here we go, though. Here's the original dive. They corner Sven under the turret. Sven, he resigns himself to death. He knows he's not going to get out of this, so he doesn't burn any summoner spells.
But it's such a good setup because they saw he was freezing the bottom lane and they expected the support to roam so they could go for either dive or a catch. Then onto Perks here. Darshan is already TP'd. He flashes over the wall. Look at your minimap, guys. Jace is still sitting top lane. Expect he was not ready to TP.
It was actually so good for Darshan. He flashes up to the range where he can charge over the wall. That's actually really hard to do, too, because the range on that charge did get reduced. And that's why it was such an impressive play there. They were able to get the kill, even though the tidal wave ended right before hitting Perks.
Well, it is very, very hard to use Tidal Wave here as somewhat of an engaged tool. It's very, very slow, of course, moving around. The fans voting for CLG for now.
Deficio tenting his fingers like the evil mastermind he is.
No, we talked about this coming in, like CLG definitely have a good shot at winning this game, honestly. We know how well they prepare for these games. We didn't see anything surprising, I feel, in terms of picks. If they had something really special prepared, like Aurelion Soul of MSI, we didn't see it this time around at least. Very, very standard picks, but a good move with Smithy, of course, diving on to Sven.
And the thing is, we didn't see a Drake after that. There was no move over to Ocean Drake because of the delayed teleport from Expect. Actually, mid lane here, we have some exchanging going on.
Yeah, bit of damage onto Perks. He puts the slowdown. Here comes the Axis, and Smithy's trying to take him out. He's gonna get it. He survives the entire encounter. A quick repel up for Trick, and they will not dive this just yet, but Afro has now joined the team, and it looks like CLG are wanting to push down the mid lane, and a red buff Olaf means plenty of damage on his structures as Mithy joins in to defend, but CLG dropping it below half.
First turret is way more important than moving over to that Ocean Drake. So much gold there, plus you remove it as an objective for the other team. That's why they're bringing everyone up here to try and capitalize on that play. They really want to turn this into that first turret gold.
It is hard for him to take it down. Expect is on his way. Mithy as well sitting here defending.
It's going to be a bit of a 4v4 though. Expect is joining. Sven still down there on the bot side right now. CLG re-engaging on this one. The ult from Mithy doesn't mean enough, and now he's missing an important cooldown for the fight. He's going to die into his turret. The turret going down as well. Expect now caught by himself. Catastrophic mistakes from G2 as they will continue to lose more of their members. A trade kill comes in, but still a rough early game now as CLG are up double the kills and a turret.
Yeah, everything is falling apart here for G2. It starts with Perks in the mid lane having no flash, and the jungler we talked about earlier, Smithy showing up big time. 3-0-3 on this Olaf. He charges into the mid lane, picks up another kill, and then G2 tries too hard to defend this mid tower, lose it, and lose more kills.
CLG, no matter how the meta changes, they always retain their hyper focus on those early objectives. There it showed. They are willing to commit their whole team for this first turret gold, and G2 were not. They still had Jhin down bottom lane, and it was a bit of a desperate move to try and defend this turret here. As you see, Mithy used his ultimate just on the minion.
Yeah, especially after the ult is now gone from Mithy. Well, that was the best you can do. Now just back away because you have no cooldowns left. Expect also just seem to forget that Darshan could walk in behind him. Gank down bottom lane.
Looking for the play right now. Curtain call is up. Stixxay takes a couple. After going to block this as well. This should not kill him, and it won't. He'll survive with 300 HP. That's the ulti down for Sven, but it does mean lane control for G2. Their jungler's there. Most of the CLG bot lane has to recall away, and this will at least be a wave pushed in.
Yeah, while G2 have done fine in the laning phase, it's as soon as CLG are forcing these fights very, very early, moving Smithy around, TPing down Darshan, then it seems like CLG is just reacting much faster, and G2 suddenly has to react on the fly. They come in one by one, a little bit too late. perks in that mid lane as well. You had 0 vision in the river. You had no flash either versus an Olaf. Why are you trying to fight in the first place? And that's just really well played by CLG and great shot calling. Seeing these mistakes from G2 and punishing them.
Yep, CLG have been working together so long with this as their focus. Does pay off here, although it's still a very, very small gold lead and just the one Ocean Drake. Actually, down bottom, this looks like a pretty interesting bush setup.
Sven gets slowed down. He's got nothing to do. Flashes up, and he's going to use it, but Smithy's got another axe. Nice dodge in the bubble, and actually well played by Sven. Gets away from the gank, even puts some punishment back onto Xmithie for his troubles. However, it still means it's a 3v0 at this bottom lane outer turret, and Counter Logic Gaming look to extend their gold lead. Sven not really in engage range, and as the minion wave is cleared out, CLG ups the gold lead to 2,500.
It's exactly what CLG were looking for. That bot lane tower killing Sven would have been a bonus, but didn't happen due to also the swiftness boots here, making it easier to dodge around as a Jhin.
Meanwhile, we actually have the rest of the team being called down. They've started to bolster this area with vision as well. Pink wards being dropped by CLG. After the mid and top turret go down, opens up the red quadrant of the jungle to a lot of plays. But here we go. Mithy's going aggressive.
Flash Q's going to land. They really want Stixxay. The CC's going to land. Bad news bears for Stixxay. It's going down. The cocoon lands the damage output, and he's going to die to Spiderlings. Trick finds one, but here's the teleport in. It's Darshan. He wants Smithy. One more hit will do it, and that's Smithy getting himself a kill. Now the chase and the Trick has to dodge around the tidal wave and will be killed. A double kill for CLG's jungler.
These Moby boots on Elise not helping him at all. He is getting squashed now under the foot of Olaf, and CLG strike back, avenging Stixxay.
And once again, CLG just TPing down so quick, while G2, they keep sitting in the top lane. They made the call, he should go for tower, but after G2 picked up the first kill, they overstayed, and suddenly this Olaf, he will not let you escape, and he just keeps chasing. 5 kills now for Xmithie. He's carrying this game.
Deficio, you talked about the nerves for a game like first group stages at Worlds here for G2, and it looks like they're having some trouble staying coordinated as we move through to this mid-game. And CLG are forcing plays. G2, their reactions seem very scattered at the moment.
Definitely so. Some communication problems for G2. Too many things happening at once. Maybe where CLG, as we said earlier, just seems like a step ahead of G2 when it comes to actually calling what's supposed to happen. This is the first kill they pick up. Right now, they see the TP so early from Darshan here. They call, expect you to stay top lane. But because Stixxay stayed alive long enough, it actually bought enough time for the Poppy and the Olaf to come in here and get onto these 2 carries here from G2.
Very good.
Supports, they make it support.
Very good undertows from Smithy, by the way. People don't really notice mechanics on Olaf because all they see is the giant red Viking charging at people. But the undertow, the axes, is actually really increases your DPS if you can control it well. He got multiple axes through 2 people. Plus, if you cast it short, you can pick it up a lot quicker. Then you get to throw the next one, and you get to chain them, plus keeping the extra slows on.
You even had great sort of reservation by Afro. He held on to the tidal wave until they could re-engage, until Xmithie was ready, Huhi coming down, aimed it to that Trick, had to basically walk away from his own base to dodge tidal wave, which let Xmithie get a lot more attacks onto him, and overall, CLG played that fight incredibly well. Xmithie now pressuring the top side. Both teams have sent their dual lanes to this side of the map now. They're playing more around Rift Herald and these turrets, as CLG have already taken down the mid lane and bottom lane turrets.
And it's crazy to think that just like 10, 12 minutes ago, Jace picks up first blood. He's 20 CS ahead. It's like, oh, Jace is gonna snowball. Well, ever since that play happened, CLG has made plays on the other side of the map, and they kept putting the Poppy there with teleport to join the team fights and not sit in the 1v1 lane. So yes, Darshan is down in CS, but he's picked up enough kills and assists now to actually be pretty strong.
Plus, on the top side, Darshan kept wards, and they were able to see Trick's movement. Even though Trick went for the Moby boots and he was moving quickly, they knew where he was and what play he was going for. Able to counter it. Here's Darshan trying to continue the 1v1.
He's coming up. It's going to be a 2v1. Here's the ghost in from Vladimir. The flash. Oh, he can't look at the tackle. Expect smartly flashes before that play was going to commit a trade of summoners.
Meanwhile, on the top side, Smithy going to steal away this blue. Mentioned how important that is for Olaf. It increases the damage tremendously, and Smithy, this is the most damage he's dealt to champions over the entire year. Pre-15 minutes.
I like how you pre-15 minutes.
But yeah,
the impact there.
but statistically, Xmithy's best early game of his year, and this is the reason that Counter Logic Gaming is winning. Trick has been in the right place several times. There have been some good laning phase matches for G2, but Xmithy is putting CLG on his back. He's clearing the wards away, and even just this, just showing up is enough to say, oh, you're right, Olaf's here, let's give him the turret.
I mean, look at the minimap right now. CLG are pushing out multiple lanes at the same time. Mid is pushed in, bot lane is pushed in as well with 2 towers down already. Perkz is just stuck in the mid lane. Both of the guys, both him and who he actually used Ghost before to try and get down to bottom lane, didn't really get any sort of reward from it, but they're now down 1 summoner. It is definitely worse for Perkz because he's just sitting back at a tier 2 tower and he's not able to move.
And I think at this point, CLG, after they clean up the last turret here and they've got their 3 turret advantage, the wards are starting to move in. You see the pink wards even encroaching in G2 territory. This makes the Drake control extremely easy for them. So this Cloud Drake should be picked up fairly quickly for CLG, and it is very dangerous for G2 to go face check this as they don't have anyone tanky. They don't have a big body to go face check into Fog of War. It's very hard to come back in Vision Wars like this. Now, you know, maybe it is a repel steal here from Trick, but it's very risky.
That's a good move right there. Now he's not in repel range of the Drake anymore. He can't get into it without burning Flash. A nice start with the Shock Blast, but CLG now own the Ocean and the Cloud Drakes. And those are the 2 big sort of rotation Drakes. They keep your health and mana topped off. They get you to the new lane faster, and this is already CLG's playstyle. It's accentuating what CLG are already doing to beat G2.
Yeah, and I really like when I see teams do what CLG is doing in this game here, where it's not about individual players specifically, like stepping up and just outplaying everyone else. No, it's as a team. They're like, okay, we're losing topside. How do we win somewhere? We have a strong bot lane. We have a strong early game jungler. Forced place on the bottom side. TP Deshaun down early to join these fights here. And then as a team, we can beat G2.
And that's the focus that CLG put on in the offseason. They rebuilt their entire team around that philosophy. That is all about the teamwork. Has paid off for them. Paid off for them at MSI. And we talked about a very similar looking strategy here for them. So far it is. It's still fairly early in the game, you know, and there are possibilities of getting picked off. Those possibilities are quickly dwindling, though.
Yeah, and we're in the mid game now where normally you would look at CLG's comp and say, ooh, not the strongest mid game composition. Vladimir wants to scale, of course. Caitlyn wants to scale. See if actually anything happens. Sven is trying to run away. Here's Hui.
Goes, he belts in, looks for a bit of damage on a Mithy, and will not quite get stunned. He's going to walk away from that. Nice dodge as well. No root either. Mithy low. Trick. Ooh, goes to the flash play. Does not catch Stixxay. Hui takes a bit of damage himself. The jungler is getting a little bit lower, but the re-engage towards Stixxay. He's going to take the bullets up, and they will do so. The re-engage now back towards Mithy and Trick. Darshan teleports in. There's the repel to stay alive so far. Elise will stay alive, but getting lower and lower over time. Bubble not quite going to land from Afro move. CLG lose a lot of health, but they keep all 5 members alive. Re-engaging now towards this turret. They have a healer, but it's not going to be enough.
Yeah, they should. Uh-oh, here we go. Looks like it's just going to be an escape here. G2 are going to be able to defend.
Yes, Pool, don't worry. It's okay. He's baiting.
He's a blood bait.
Please jump at me, please.
And the thing is, though, CLG, I think, win in this trade a lot of ways because they'll continue to regenerate after this fight ends. They got low, but it doesn't really matter. Their minion waves are all pressed up. G2, even if they dealt more damage, will not get map control out of this.
And that's always the beautiful thing about pushing your waves first before you make plays, because then even if you don't gain anything, or maybe you lose 1 member, there's really nothing the enemy team can do because they didn't have to push all the minions all the way up to your turrets. It gives you a lot of time to respawn and get back out on the map. So CLG with a great setup, not really taking any chances, and it was G2 who used tons of flashes in that last fight.
CLG's team fight is just so much stronger right now. G2 have not been able to get the leads in all their damage carries, right? We talked about, yeah, Olaf sometimes, if he's charging at a full damage team, can get shot down. But if the full damage team is this much behind, they're not going to be able to take down the front line of CLG. And it makes it pretty simple for CLG the next few steps as far as ending it out around those normal objectives and chasing people down.
Yeah, that was the point I wanted to make before we had the little fight. You know, with CLG having Vladimir and Caitlyn, 2 picks where you can normally say, okay, they got to get past the mid game, get to 2 or 3 items at least. Well, in this case here, because CLG won the early game, got all these early towers down, these carries here, they're already pretty fed, they're already towards the late game build, and they don't really suffer that problem in the mid game anymore. Because Syndra, Jhin, and Jace, all picks that really shine with 1 or 2 items, don't have that advantage anymore because CLG has so much gold.
And you can already start to see CLG feeling so comfortable that Stixxay is deviating to a more defensive build on Caitlyn. Usually you see Caitlyn rush to those 3-item power point, right? But he's already going for magic resistance because he doesn't want to get killed by the Elise Syndra combo.
And you can see now another engage comes through. Xmithy getting rooted up, but so far so good. And talk about Aphromoo looking to help the team make a play. Aphromoo up about 700 gold over Mythy means he's already got the Aegis of the Legion done, so that Magic Fist aura as well, helping to make sure Perch doesn't assassinate somebody with an ultimate. But G2 able to use the lane dominance of Expect, who is 3-1. If it's going to be a carry performance, it'll probably be that G2 top laner. Gets the solo kill on the turret, pushing Darshan out of lane. He got a bit of help from Trick a little while ago, but you're seeing G2 edge back into this game.
Yeah, that is the one advantage G2 still has in this game here. It's the bottom lane, or well, wherever you send the top laner, basically. He was in bottom lane just before, in the 1v1 with the armor penetration, the Black Cleaver against the full tank Puppey. Baron, though, is the call for CLG. They're starting it. G2 is on the way.
They do plenty of damage, though, and you've already got Darshan here to play zoning duty. He's going to walk into the support and say, hey, Mythy, look at me, stun me, do your stuff.
Knocked him away.
Yeah, ulti charged up, and he's not going to get rid of Elise, so Trick is still around. CLG choose to keep DPS on. Darshan just tanking damage. 2,000 health left on Baron. Title to buy more time. They should get Baron, and it will go to Counter Logic Gaming. Now for the re-engage, he looked for someone else, but can't find the damage. Glacial Pitcher comes out to disengage. Nothing picked up except the bot lane tier 2 turret.
It's just too dangerous for G2 to face check this Fog of War against the team. There are traps lined up. Puppey is ejecting people, and Vladimir is zoning. Very good job there by CLG to stick to the Baron and not give up, try and chase people down. So Baron is going to really amplify their push. Caitlyn with the Baron, very easy siege.
This is something we don't do very often, is actually really praise teams when they set up well around the Baron and execute it, because it's so often like, oh, they lost to that Baron, 50-50, whatever. This situation here, CLG had, honestly had the perfect setup. Yeah. They had a great zoning from Puppey, tidal away from Nami, they had full vision. They never really gave G2 a chance to steal the Baron.
And to talk about the severity of that, so rarely do you see 10 players alive clean Baron take. That is rare in professional League of Legends. CLG executing it nicely, but Expect was able to take 2 turrets while that all happens. The gold remains close-ish.
Yeah, in order to really put yourselves in the shoes of G2 there, you kind of need to turn on that Fog of War and think about all the different traps that you're running into to try and get the very, very scary maneuver, and CLG do come out with the objective.
Wow, Stixley going very defensively. I thought it was Hextrigger, but it's actually going towards the Mercurial Scimitar, the Quicksilver Sash into the Lifesteal that comes out of it. That is Mercurial Scimitar, I'm silly, but it is. Yeah, I was thinking Malva Mortius in my head, and I just like completely blanked on that.
Thank you, AD Carry main.
Yeah, I know. I just haven't had to buy Magic System in a while, and I just forgot how it worked. But here we go. He running back and forth. Of course, a little bit quicker thanks to the Cloud Drake. Hit up a bit. Losing 500 HP. Doesn't seem to care.
And you got 3 big tanks on CLG now. Puppey, Vladimir, and Olaf. Really, really difficult for a Jhin and a Syndra to kill these tanks. Normally, they're very good at killing squishies, you know, flat armor penetration, flat magic penetration on both these champions. Well, right now, you have to kill a massive front line first.
Yeah, this is a giant steamroller comp here from CLG, and they really want to use the Baron buff to get the turrets. That's why they're not taking this Mountain Drake right now, trying to get the turret gold first.
That's going to be mid lane tier 2 down. So there's only 1 tier 2 turret left, and CLG gets that first 6 turrets right now. They're definitely sizably ahead right there. Over 4,000 gold now, once again stretching that lead as they shove their waves in. Mythy fighting for vision control in his own jungle just outside of his base. That's how choked off G2 are right now.
Only a good thing as a supporter when you ward there is how quickly you get back to Fountain, get more wards, go back and place the same ones, because the enemy will just clear them. Yeah. But yeah, if you are G2, you're actually not even looking for late game, because we have Caitlyn, Vladimir again, and Puppey as well on the side of CLG, like insane late game Caitlyn. This needs to be a massive outplay for G2 in a team fight to win this game.
Exactly. What you're looking for are mistakes, unforced errors, openings for you to capitalize on, right? And those can occur around turrets where you have the extra damage to assist you from your turrets, but
Mythy blocks up the shot, so it doesn't get rooted up, but the turret's still under siege. Sadly for them, though, a Baron up cannon minion is actually outside of turret range, so it is full aggro, and that will eventually clear away. 2/3 health.
Yeah, they don't really want to take any chances here, so CLG backing off out of vision. They're coming down with the minion wave. You can boost up the speed of the minion wave with that Baron buff as well. So kind of a surprise siege right there. They return to the scene of crime, take down the last turret, and then they can rotate and grab the Drake as well.
That is 6,000 gold up for Counter Logic Gaming, who he was splitting in the bot lane, and even got the inhib turret down below half as well. It's one last easy recall as Baron buff times out for CLG. They earned 3,500 gold off of that Baron, and they can now take that clean Mountain Drake as they look for the seeds that might win them the game.
If you are G2 at this point, you start talking about, you know, what's our biggest item power spike we can possibly get to before we have to take that fight. Well, for most of these guys, it might be like One more item, guys. Get a third item down, and then we just go for that one fight. If we don't win it, we lost the game. Because the scaling in on CLG is great. They're going to get stronger and stronger. GA completely on Smithy here. G2 needs to just try and fight, honestly, with, let's look at the next, 5 minutes? Otherwise, it's not going to get any easier. Once we have full GAs, full defensive items on CLG, then you're never going to kill them.
This is why, by this point, this is where you start to expect to see some risky plays from G2, right? Because they need to take any opportunity that's given to them. If there's somebody slightly out of position, you kind of have to throw everything that you have on that possibility of making that play and trying to turn that into some extra gold. Because there are quite a few extra standing powers here for CLG, since G2 have only taken 3 total.
Yeah, but that's the difficulty, of course. If you look at Counter Logic Gaming's composition, you've got Olaf, who's immune to crowd control, Sixlight with a Quicksilver Sash, who can drop off crowd control. Afro should always be in the back, and Hui and Darshan are honestly probably just too tanky. G2 have the right champions for it, but there's not the right targets for it, and it makes it kind of difficult to find that opening. Smithy trading blows with Mithy. Doesn't quite find too much damage. Trick battles back and forth, but look at that. CLG, once again, holding vision control on this side of the jungle. He eats up all the traps, and the rest of Counter Logic Gaming shoved down the mid lane. Kind of base taking a bit too much there, than a half HP, maybe about a more than he can chew. Has a Guardian Angel, gets rooted, might run out of HP, he's got to be careful! And that's the revive forced down, so here come the teleports, here comes the team fight. 6A jogging away pretty nicely, Darshan joins the fray, and how much damage can they really find? Trick is low, Huhi looks at the chase line to expect, and there's the flash out from Trick himself. Huhi has the empowered heal available, puts some damage on Mithy, a nice stun comes out from Perks, a little bit. Snipe's gonna come through, nearly kills him, Smithy, the Olaf close to dead. Block of shield comes out, doesn't block any damage though. It's a late trigger from Afremu, and it means Counter Logic Gaming have to recall losing a Guardian Angel. Ooh, Smithy takes a heal from Afro, gets away.
See, that's the opening they're looking for, right? Openings like that, and they do gain something out of it. Taking down the GA off of Smithy, popping the ultimate, they bought themselves a little bit of time. No kills though, so there's not really any extra gold, and next time around, I don't know. It looks rough for your boys there, Tishio.
Definitely does. I mean, full credit to CLG. They've just outplayed G2 in the early to mid game. Smithy was on fire this game, and also good shot calling, setting up the plays we highlighted earlier. That was close to the best fight G2 could hope for. Don't pick up a single kill because of the tankiness of CLG. Now Darshan picked up the GA, so if you remove it from Smithy, he just takes it himself, and now you have to do the same thing again.
And remember, if CLG are able to take this game, it has huge implications for this group. One of the reasons why we're so sure that this is going to be one of the games that does decide that #2 seed is because Rocks are so heavily favored to get out in first place, and Albus Nox Luna are pretty heavily supplanted in that 4th spot. So CLG, breaking the analysts' predictions here would be a very big upset.
In front of the home crowd, no less. CLG wearing their American flag colors and their uniforms. The crowd here in San Francisco, you heard their cheers every time we announced the North American team during the opening ceremony. They would love nothing better than for CLG to strike the first win of the League of Legends World Championship here this year. And as the gold lead remains 6,500, they are poised to do so with Baron buff respawn.
We got 3 items now on G2. If we look at both Perks and Expect, 2 solo laners for them, this might be the best time to just try and fight. If CLG goes for a risky Baron and maybe fails the execution, that could be a way in for G2. But we saw CLG, last time Baron was alive, set it up perfectly and never really gave G2 a chance.
So many tools. When you're on red side and the blue team has to come through these small corridors, CLG looking to chase him down.
Flash to get away from the bubble. Tidewave's going to tag onto one, forcing the flash into the G2 AD carry. Trick is on the flank. Mithy going to get burned down. That's the first kill. Huhi is engaged deep into the back line. Smithy wearing off all the damage. Darshan, who is he going to punch out? Looks like he's going to wait for it and let it go back on a cooldown. Not too much picked up just yet, but that is still G2 missing their support. 5v4 for Counter Logic Gaming. Mountain Drake means they kill the turrets faster, and here comes the siege. Maybe the game-winning push right now, 32.5 minutes in. There's the inhibitor turret. The inhibitor itself now available as Darshan kites back and forth. Smithy getting a bit low. The opening on an Afremu. This could be some very crucial snipes by Sven. Misses one, tags another, and who's he going to get for this one? Looks for the final shot, and it's going to be the revive out for Darshan. He'll come back up soon. Stixay a bit low. He's got to be careful. A big stun. There's the root as well. Do they have the damage? G2 right now do not, but Counter Logic Gaming have to run away for dear life. The revives are in. Mithy's back on the map and CLG Gaming
he's
needs
back
to get
at
away.
base.
He's coming up to the left-hand side. Let's see if he can find anything.
Too far away.
It seems very unlikely as CLG are going to continue to run away. The Ocean and Cloud Drift helping them get away and keep their health bars, something that won't get them killed. But G2 now control the map a little bit more. CLG want back in, though. They've got to slow on his Sven. Not going to be a stun just yet here from the mid laner. Back again onto Mithy. His exhaust going to be up, and he's going to find a target. Mithy wearing down, and it's 2 kills for CLG Gaming. Expect re-engages, cannot find Darshan, and that's 4 already. Perkz the last one alive. There's the stun. He's going to take him down. The ace for CLG Gaming as they run down the mid lane to win the first game of the World Championship.
CLG alone in the enemy base, running towards the Nexus, the opening game of Worlds.
14-4 in kills, 7-3 in turrets. Despite the first blood, CLG Gaming won the way that CLG wins. Control, strategy, shot calling, and teamwork leads North America to a 1-0 record at Worlds.
Honestly, a very calm and clean win for CLG as well. All through that teamwork. Smithy, definitely the point man, creating a lot of the plays as the jungle, but the entire team, great coordination and not phased by the first blood at all.
No, exactly. CLG came in, they had a plan, play around bottom lane. They first rotation the Nami Caitlyn. Super strong 2v2 lane. And they said, you know what, guys? Let's just play around these guys. And if Darshan can TP out of his lane, Expect didn't follow twice in the early game when we had these fights. And G2 just seemed to be completely caught off guard, honestly. They were not ready to react when CLG forced plays. So really well played here by CLG, and they fully deserve to win this game.
And some of them were such tight calls as well. I point back to the desynced recall where you had Mithy block a bubble so Sven could get back, Mithy built a freeze, and then recalled back to lane. And there's a 20-second window of a desynced 2v1. Huhi and Mithy come down saying, this is our exact timer, the only time we can dive Sven. 4v1, he's dead for free, another 2-for-1 after that. And CLG played these scenarios so cleanly, so crisply, so quickly. And that's why they won.
Yeah, they just need a little bit of information. They see the, support is building up a freeze here. We know he's going to recall later. Yep. Bot lane, Xmithy was already moving down, and that's just great understanding of the game. And you've also, of course, played these scenarios over and over. Not a lot of teams will pull off a play like that when they know there's a freeze and an AD carry might be alone. So really well played by CLG. And Xmithy especially, what a performance.
Yeah, I mean, Mithy from G2 did mention it, reacting to these plays has been something that G2 has struggled with, even though he feels like they're stronger, pretty much across the board than his previous team. It definitely showed in this game, and they did look a bit scattered, something they're going to have to clean up moving forward in groups.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, you definitely did see good points from G2, though, right? Expect winning his lane. We didn't watch it very much, but Perkz did win over Huhi. He was constantly up 10 to 12 minions for almost the entire game, and it started pretty early on in the laning phase. But, of course, the downfall was the fact that the coordination wasn't there, right? Whether it was late teleports or late rotations, CLG were still able to find ways to move first and to play as a team first. And even if you are theoretically outskilled on paper, 5v4s are 5v4s. You don't really lose those fights. These are very good players still, even if Sven is like one of the very best AD carriers in the world. Stixxay is, on the grand scale, not far behind him. And when you see those executions, they're still clean by CLG.
Aphromoo has had so much time with all of these players, and he is one of the all-time great in-game leaders. It just shows with CLG's play. They never lose calm.
No, exactly. And I think we also get to see this tournament, and especially this game here, how when we talk about one player maybe being slightly better than another player individually, it's really not by a lot. It's like small things, where there's a small advantage. In a game like this here, yeah, Huhi, okay, you fall down 10 CS. You're playing Vladimir. You're fine falling down 10 CS because late game, you're going to be way better. And that's exactly what he was in this game here. And Stixxay Aphromoo can definitely go toe-to-toe with some of the best bot lanes in the world. We saw it at MSI. Yeah. We're going to see it more and more as well.
And this is now the story I maybe want to tell about CLG Gaming is whether you get counted out or not. At the big events, 2016 CLG shows up. Second MSI, I mean, most people predicted them to not get out of groups at the Midseason Invitational. Instead, they make the finals.
Most people predicted them not to get out of groups here at Worlds as well.
Very true. A lot of people put G2 above them.
And that's the point, right? Is, well, here you are
getting ready for the major event when it's time to focus and be ready against the world's best. And CLG looked super sharp. They looked absolutely great. Yes, you still saw moments from G2 that were good. Again, they won top lane pretty significantly. There was some good split pushing there, but you have CLG kind of on fire again. It's that MSI CLG, it seems.
And now next game, obviously, is the Rocks Tigers versus Albus, a game where...
The rest of the group.
Yeah, the rest of the group, where Tigers will be heavy favorites, and they will be favorites in every game they play here, but upsets can still happen in BO1s. Like CLG, G2, these teams can still take a game off them. Obviously, a team like G2 needs to play much better than they did right now, but CLG, if they continue playing like they did here, good coordination, setting up plays around the bottom lane, they can definitely take games off some of the other teams in best of ones.
Absolutely, and of course CLG and G2 will have a rematch next week to figure out who even advances on further, but now we're going to send it down to the stage where Shox is waiting with a word from CLG's AD carry.
Thank you very much indeed. Waiting here with Stixxay from CLG after that victory over G2. First up, congratulations. You were the underdog going into this matchup, according to a lot of the analysts, but how did you guys step into that one?
Well, obviously, like, we're used to being in the underdog position, so it's nothing new to us. And I feel like it almost fuels us to even play better, so yeah, it was pretty good.
Well, you guys played amazingly. Very interesting pick and ban picking for that very aggressive lane. How did you want to contain that bottom lane specifically, and how did that fit into the rest of the game plan for this?
Well, we know that G2's main lane, they play off as bottom lane, so we decided to pick like a really strong bottom lane to contain that, and it worked out pretty well. This world's meta, I think, is pretty hard to figure out. I think a ton of teams have different priorities, so you'll see a ton of different drafts. So expect more weird picks.
Expect more weird picks. We love to hear that. Fantastic victory. How does it feel in general to bring home the first victory for an NA team here in NA?
It feels really good, especially since like so many people doubted us, and it's always fun to keep feeling the EU-NA rivalry. So.
Well, you definitely dealt the first blow in that fight. CLG upsetting G2 here, fantastic. Talk to me about how you guys as a team stand into this tournament before MSI coming out of NA as the first seed. Now it's a bit of a different story. MSI was a very breakout tournament for you personally, but it seems to be a different atmosphere, and a lot of the hype is going into TSM for this tournament. But how do you guys view it?
Well, in my personal opinion, I think that NA is actually a really strong region. Some people don't really think that, but in my opinion, they're probably like the second best region right now. So there's a ton of hype going to more so like the top NA teams like TSM and Cloud9. But even though we're like the other Worlds team from NA, we're still obviously really good. So yeah.
Obviously really good. That showed in this game. Finally, tell me how you think this group is going to go. A lot of people have said, well, Rocks clear #1, and then 2 is going to go between G2 and CLG. How did you see maybe your opinion on that changing now that you crushed G2?
Well, yeah, I agree. I think Rocks is the clear #1, and then the battle is us versus G2. I still think it's going to be us versus G2. Just because we won a best of 1 doesn't mean we're better. So I think at the end of the group stage, it's still going to be us versus G2. So.
And is it going to be you in the end?
Maybe. Just kidding, of course.
Of course. Well, fantastic. Congratulations on your very first victory here at Worlds. Stixxay. Fantastic victory from CLG. And now we're going to kick it over to the guys at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Shox. CLG victorious in Game 1 of the 2016 World Championships. But before we get into anything, gentlemen, I have to acknowledge the stellar 0% prediction rate that currently exists on this desk. And I'm sure the fans will be happy about that one.
I mean, if it, mathematically 1,000 voices to 3 is a very unfair ratio.
CLG is like the Yugi, man. You can never count them out through their Millennium Puzzle. They show up every time it matters.
That is very right, and they showed up here. And before we dive into the gameplay itself, want to hit Champ Select just briefly, as we saw the Aurelion Sol banned out, but that Caitlyn pick that had been brought out at MSI for Stixxay, made popular there, doing work again here.
I mean, Caitlyn Nami's kind of a blocker lane to a lot of things. Nami's come into the meta because so strong against the melee supports. Caitlyn famous for her lane phase in general, so they went for the blocker picks. They played to it really well. But honestly, to me, this game was all about Darshan, and especially Xmithie or Smithy, depending on whether you want to confuse him with me. But regardless, great performance by them. And the Olaf pick we never see in Korea did work.
Well, yeah, you talk about that Olaf and Xmithie on it. Let's dive into our first replay, brought to you by Acer here in the bot lane. Turret dive from CLG, gonna come out on top 2 for 1 in this trade.
And this is exactly what Defisi was talking about. They know that there's a freeze going on, and they get to see Xmithie go for a ward clear in the top side. Immediately, Xmithie reacts, and they see Sven being a little bit greedy. The wave should not be here in this position, and they go for the dive right away. And from this point on, this is what's gonna snowball CLG's game.
A big kill picked up there. We'll see one more picked up here as Huhi comes into the bot lane.
Yeah, and Huhi right here, he realizes that the tides are turning in this fight. He actually flashed aggressively because he knows he has Nami follow-up. His team's already winning, and they'll aggressively chase into the jungle right there. But the good thing there is Syndra has role priority over Vladimir, because Huhi was so on his toes. He immediately followed. He knew that whatever CS he loses mid or position, it's more important to play as a team and roam down. And this is the second part of this replay right here. They just aggressively chase on Perkz. What is Perkz gonna do here? You know, flash 1, dodge 2, Darshan comes in swinging, and suddenly it all starts falling down for G2 Esports.
And what I really took away from this game, you know, both replays we're gonna see, is just how fast on his feet, specifically Darshan, was on the Poppy. The laning phase against Jace is always gonna be super punishing. We see it on the screen, but he was always first to leave his lane. Knew his role. He was happy to drop CS 20, 30, 40, 50 if he can make the plays around. If those plays go wrong, you just lose the game because you're entering lane 70 CS behind, but making the plays was what CLG needed.
And Crumbs, Darshan, this is the guy who was looked at with such a critical eye going into this international tournament. People saying he's the underperformer of CLG, but in this, as Papa Smithy mentioned, fulfilling that role, playing the role as he needed to against the likes of a scary Jace.
Well, they find him being very successful in the Poppy pick, one that's not expected to be such a high priority in the meta, but of course just brings so much utility, and particularly it's one of the best champions at actually punishing the bottom lane, and I think that's really what CLG's plan was from the very get-go. That's why you draft the Caitlyn Nami right from the start, make sure that you can kind of neutralize the big strength for G2, which is that dual lane, and they did so quite well.
Yeah, they just played around their strengths. Not only did they punish the bot lane, they also let the CLG macro shine, and that was incredibly apparent at the Baron bait here. So we're just going to take another look at how they set that up and just the importance of vision, pink wards, and just displaying just how easy it is to play against great teams if you have the right setup for the Baron. Hopefully, we can get that on the screen right now. We had a replay prepared.
Right, it was mentioned, though, that this team, right, kind of the contrast of the two teams, you've got individual talent. We're looking at tricks, you know, trick to make plays around the map. But for CLG, it's the larger movements as a team. And we will see if we can get this replay up around the Baron. A great Baron dance from them, controlling the vision first, utilizing Darshan to kind of, you know, push people out of it. Here we see it on your screen now.
So they started knowing that they have vision control, because if we go to the vision toggle right now, we see 3 traps on the left side controlling that choke point. Then we have the zone control. They have 2 champions that are so fantastic at being a blocker. You have Poppy W, Poppy R, and in addition to that, they swept the pit. They have 2 pink wards. This is a magnificent setup from CLG, and major shots to my weatherman Dash, who did the drawing on the screen here.
And the other big takeaway is that, of course, the top laner here, Expect doesn't have teleport, so they had that extra information. They set up really well, double pink, such clean stuff from CLG.
And you can't overlook the fact that they had wave control beforehand, so they push the waves immediately, they make G2 respond to the waves, and that's what you see them all funnel in through that same place, because they have to come in through the laning phase, and immediately Darshan does just such a wonderful job of zoning out Elise. You know it's the only factor that can steal it, and she can't get past without flash.
Yeah, we saw it right there. We had the Poppy R come out, everybody stepped back for a second. When they get closer, it's Aframu's turn. He throws out the tidal wave, and everybody on G2 is so apprehensive of entering that area. And if anybody came from the left side, they would have walked into those 3 traps.
And at the end of the day, Poppy can do 2 roles. Initiation, we saw that, but goalkeeping, that's what it feels like. Just powering up that hammer, there for disengage, and got them the Baron, which really cemented this game for CLG.
Well, this is going to bring us to our player of the game, though, and that's going to the Olaf play in the jungle. Xmithy, 6-0-5 on that Olaf, making his presence known.
And the cool thing about this game, how it started, is the way that CLG initiated the pathing. So Darshan actually faked a leash in the top side. He took a little bit of extra damage from the Krugs, showed up to the lane, weakened, and then Xmithy was actually starting in the blue side. And with a little bit of a confusing path, it was very difficult for G2 to exactly figure out not just what his current path was, but what his future pathing would be. And that just adds to the element of surprise, and it makes a team be more cautious, especially in an opening match like this.
And this was Xmithy's best performance at 15 minutes in the game the entire season. He dealt 4.3k damage at 15 minutes, and he was 4-0-3 already right there. So involved in 7 kills, took 4 to his name. What a fantastic performance.
We're going to need to see continued great performances out of him if CLG want to top their group. Now, before we gear up for Game 2, a reminder that World's Hectech crafting materials are available for 150 IP in client every day of the tournament. Use them to level up team icons and emotes to support your favorite squad. Now, there's a whole lot more League of Legends coming your way. When we return, it's Korea's Rocks Tigers versus the LCL's Albus Nox Luna. Stay with us. After 9 months of competition across all corners of the globe, 16 teams, the finest their regions have to offer, have all converged on the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium here in San Francisco, California.
We are now loading onto the Rift for Game 1 of the 2016 League of Legends World Championship. Go Ward, Trick spots him down to 100 HP, and Darshan gets sniped! Expect draws first blood at the World Championship. He's missing an important cooldown for the fight. He's gonna die into his turret. The turret going down as well. Expect now caught by himself. Catastrophic mistakes from G2 as they will continue.
Hey, we got this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Okay, Jace. I go to Jace. Yo, Jace bubble. Let's go, Jace. Go mid. End the game.
I got it.
Good job.
Fucking sticks like it, boys.
Shot calling and teamwork leads North America to a 1-0 record at Worlds.